Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate you letting me be here and speaking to you about resilience. And today I'm going to talk to you about moving from survival through strategic resilience. And it's part of my Bragging About You series. And I really want to thank Jackie for having me. I'm sorry I'm a little late this morning. I just had to get myself set up. I decided I was going to come here I'm near the Greenbelt here in Idaho, and I wanted to come here and talk to you from this space because this is where my strategic resilience happened. The day I got off the plane in Idaho, the day I got off, I landed. It was in the middle of the pandemic, 2020, had my mask on, holding my dog, my 2 suitcases. I went to the car counter to rent a car. Sorry, you can't rent a car with that card. So I had to call a family member to come pick me up from the airport. So I had this whole plan, set up. And I was like, I'm just gonna go to my apartment that I had rented, that I hadn't seen, and be done. So family member came and picked me up, and I didn't have a bed yet, so they said they would let me borrow a air mattress from another family member. And when I saw them, the first thing they said to me is, "Why did you come here? Nobody wants you here." Welcome to Idaho. That was my welcome to Idaho. Why did you come here? Nobody wants you here. And that started a whole barrage of emotional, financial, and psychological abuse from these people. And everyone's like, oh, go live closer to your family. That was not, in my mind, not a good decision. It didn't turn out to be. So I came here, and the air mattress they gave me turned out to be broken. And so I had it for like 2 or 3 nights because I was waiting for my bed to arrive. The bed got here, and I had to put that together by myself. The air mattress was broken. Every night it would deflate all the way. But I was like, maybe they didn't know, give somebody the benefit of the doubt. I was given a box of dishes, like a Rubbermaid box of used dishes that I was, grateful for. Thank you for letting me borrow these dishes. Within a couple of weeks, it's like, oh, we need those dishes back because we're moving in with somebody else and we need those dishes. I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll just go get some paper plates and plasticware, and that's what I'll use to eat off of because I didn't have much of anything. I didn't even have pots and pans. And so I'm like, what am I gonna do? I was sitting there looking at my empty apartment. I had ordered a bed in the box from Amazon. I believe I bought a folding chair from Target. Target was open, it was COVID, but it was, kind of like a ghost town, like most things. And a neighbor had befriended me and she took me to Walmart and I bought a $5 box of dishes. So I was starting to make a plan. That's what I was doing. I didn't just come here and have no idea. I was making a plan. And I was planning as I was going along. And that's part of resilience, is you have to make a plan as you're going. It's not when you're in survival mode or trying to get through survival mode, you have to have a survival plan, and this was mine. So the next thing I did is I decided, I just got divorced. I never had an engagement party, or never had a wedding or anything like that because I had a common law marriage. So I was like, I'm gonna have a divorce party. And some of my friends were really into that. So they sent me a few things. Like one woman sent me money to buy a coffee pot and a TV, and I used some of the money to buy like an end table. So after a few months, I had a mattress on the floor, an end table, a plastic couch I bought from a thrift store, a folding chair from Target, and a long table, again, I bought from a thrift store. And I didn't think I was doing great. I was literally laying in my bed. Actually, not in the bed, like on the mattress, right? But I was laying there, and I didn't know what to do. I would lay on the plastic couch some days, not knowing what to do. The blanket that I had, I made it because I didn't even have a blanket. So I bought some, and fortunately it was summer, so I didn't really need one, but I bought some yarn and I crocheted myself a blanket. And these are all things I'm like, okay, I need this. How am I going to get it? That's how my brain was working. And I went for like 6 months like that. I didn't have any furniture. I had hardly any food. I starved the first Christmas I was here. The first Christmas I was here, I had, in Idaho, I had steak for dinner. And the reason I had steak is because it was on sale at the grocery store. Finally, in February, I saw a truck drive by, and it said like, there's a furniture truck, and it said the name of the furniture store. And I'm like, well, if other people who live here can get furniture from that place, I can too. So I called them up. I went and looked at the furniture place. I used my income tax refund that year to buy myself some furniture. And then I finally had furniture. I'm like, okay, I'm getting somewhere. I'm getting a plan. I'm starting to look like a person, and I need to get my life together. It took me about 6 months of just being in this frozen state. After that, I finally decided, okay, my life isn't going anywhere, and what am I gonna do? And I'm like, okay, I need somebody to help me jumpstart my life, because you know, it's sometimes, like even with your car, you need jumper cables to start your car if it's just not working right. And that's what I did. So I got a therapist to help me jumpstart. And then within 6 weeks, I had a job, I had started my business, and I actually was making friends. And while I was doing all of this, I was out here on the trail where I am today, out here walking every single day, exploring my new environment, connecting with nature, so I could have a reason to be there, to be here. And so I could make myself feel better, like, Jeanette, it's okay, it's gonna be okay. Every day I would tell myself that. And actually what was happening is I was working online. I still can't figure out how I made enough money to survive that year. I'm still trying to figure it out. But that day I would sit there and literally I would be working on my laptop, tears streaming down my face while I was working, and then wipe the tears away, go for a walk, come back. So I was having this strategic reset every day. Like, okay, this is going to make me feel better, so I'm going to go do this. Well, a few years before, when I was a faculty member, I'd created this thing called my brag book for my students in my class. And it was to help them realize like how awesome they were. And I tell you, I was not feeling too awesome about myself. With no furniture, starting my life over with $2,400, having family members telling me to go away, telling lies. Like one of them told people, this was one of my favorites, that I was burning through my savings of $2,400. Like, I don't know too many adult people who think that $2,400 is a lot of money, because especially here in Idaho, that gets you through a month, basically. And the fact that I stretch it out longer than that is in itself a miracle, to be honest. So I was out walking, finally met some friends. I had this book that I was like, I'm going to use this for myself. And then I actually had a journal that I kept. And so the first page of the journal would be like what's happening, you know, my goals, my dreams, and then I always ended with gratitude, like 10 things I'm grateful for every day. And I've been doing the gratitude thing for a long time because I saw it on Oprah once, you know, like back in the 90s or something like that. So I had this in my mind, and then I had these little aphorisms I had written down when I was meditating. So I'd meditate, then wake up, and I'd have these aphorisms, I'd write them down. And then I was talking to a friend of mine about this, and his family member, his grandmother, had written a similar type book. She had been a minister where she's from. And so he showed me her book, and I was like, okay, well, that's not what mine's going to look like, but I already had in my mind what mine was going to look like. I was basically recreating my journal with these aphorisms and these brag statements or personal self-awareness, self-love statements. And so while I was working on this, I was helping myself. It wasn't, I was just sitting there going, oh, my life is terrible. I'm helping myself now. I'm helping myself by doing this. Like, I know this works. I also knew, like, how do I reset when I'm upset? So I was writing the book, talking to my friend about it, and then I also meditated. So I made strategic choices. I didn't just, oh, well, this is a miracle that's happened to me. I started making strategic choices to overpower, I have PTSD, overpower the PTSD that I was enduring, and to reset my mind, reset my nervous system. Okay, this is bothering me today. I'm going to go meditate for an hour. I'm going to go for a walk in nature because it makes me feel better. I'm going to, you know, some people call it a little version of escapism, and that's kind of what it was. So as I wrote the book, toward the end of writing the book, I got COVID. I got COVID in January of, it was 2022. So it was when there was this huge peak in COVID. I think if you remember, like they'd opened the airports and there's a lot of travelers. And I wasn't one of them, but I was one of the people who got COVID at that time. And I was really sick. And I was sitting at home by myself, which is super isolating. And I felt alone and worried and scared because I know how serious COVID was for some people. And I had a serious version of COVID myself. But as a health, even though I'm not a clinician, as a healthcare professional, I knew that it was serious. So I did research while I was sick. I researched COVID, and I had done a lot of research before that. I had taken part in a lot of COVID meetings, like how to prevent the spread of COVID, how it was spread, what to do. And one of the things was to eat protein. And so I asked a friend to send me a pizza. They probably thought it was the dumbest thing they'd ever heard. And I'm like, protein helps fight respiratory infections. And so they said, okay. So I made a strategic move. I didn't just lay there and hope I got better. I started planning. And then while I was sitting there, I'm like, well, I have to do something because I'm bored and I don't want to get depressed. And so I put together the final pieces of my Bragging About You book. And something not very many people know is that I published that book while I had COVID. So I was sitting in my home, sick, and I published the book while I had COVID. So I finished the final touches and I published it while I had COVID. And then, so that was a part of my strategy too, as part of my wellness strategy, get better strategy, my PTSD strategy. Like, okay, I need this little win while I'm sick. And it did make me feel better. And a few weeks later, I was out walking on the trail again. I made myself go out and walk on the trail again. It was a plan. It was not like, oh, I just feel like it. I woke up one day and I'm like, I need to get back outside. It's good for me. And so that's what I did. I made myself do it. And I know sometimes it's hard because people are like, well, I would have just stayed in bed. And that You know, like I said, I have a therapist, and he said, what makes you get out of bed every day? And it's part of like your strategic resilience is you can either do it or you cannot do it. Those are your choices. You can stay in bed or you can get up. You can go for a walk and enjoy nature, or you can stay home. I could write a book, or I could sit there and stare at my wall. I could be sick and just hope I got better, or I could actually take action to help myself become better. And that's what I've done with my PTSD, with my health issues. I'm always working every day to make myself better. And that's really what bragging about you is all about. It's not about like ego. It's about resilience. It's about learning how to make yourself better using your own life to be like, I learned this from this. And I will tell you, in that situation, I learned so much about myself. Honestly, I am not the same person I was 6 years ago, the day I got off that plane. If somebody would have told me today, nobody wants you here, I'm like, well, I'm here anyway. That's what I would have said. And too bad. But back then, I was just so destroyed inside because I didn't feel a sense of, we call it self-efficacy, where you feel good about yourself. And I worked on that so many times. So I'd love it if you could check out my book, Bragging About You, if you want to check out my website, or if you just have questions and you want to DM me and know how to engage in your own form of strategic resilience. I hope you all stay safe, stay healthy, and take care. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.